Hello everyone, I am Smitty, and I'm the creator of the blue-green tempo list maybe you've seen around, popularized by Martin Juza, who tweeted about his run to Mythic this season and how impressively quick it was. So anyways, shout out to Juza for shouting me out, because it does take a lot of hours, hundreds of hours, to get to this point where you have like a real meta deck. So anyways, I want to explain a little bit about the history of it a little bit, and then we'll go through a game and also some sideboard guides, and then you will have a lock on this deck and what it's all about. And hopefully you have the same success that I've had with it. And let's just get right into it. So I'm going to begin by going through the cards one by one and just how I got there. This deck has had many iterations, beginning with like Growth Chamber Guardians. It always had Frilled Mystic. Departed Deckhand was not there originally. It always led with Llanowar, Pelt Collector, like all the best early drops, right? It just kind of was self-explanatory all the way through Knoll Hide. Galt never was in there until semi-recently. I used to try Krasis, but then it felt too mid-range. Anyways, it all became possible when I realized Departed Deckhand and Galt were the trample effect I was looking for, or the unblockable effect I was looking for. That is what really set it off. So we obviously begin with Llanowar Elves, and Llanowar Elves we want because our fast starts are almost always wins. The win rate is extremely high with turn 1 Llanowar Elf. Turn 1 Llanowar Elf is not just turn 2 Steel Leaf or Jade Light. Jade Light's pretty underwhelming in here, as you'll see. It's turn 1 Llanowar Elf into turn 2 Pelt Collector plus another 2-drop. That starts probably even better, led by a Knoll Hide the next turn, or a Steel Leaf if your Llanowar gets removed. We don't always live in La La Land, but the deck is very consistent. Pelt Collector, he's just the most aggressive 1-drop in the format. I mean, it's really self-explanatory. He's also an elf, which is relevant. Departed Deckhand is the newest tech in basically the card that made this deck extremely viable for laddering, at least. I have not seen it enter any tournaments yet, but we'll see. Excuse me. Departed Deckhand is basically unblockable 2 damage every turn, right? But then you make your Knoll Hides unblockable. Even sometimes like making a Branch Walker unblockable when you have Galt in play. That's like an extra free 3 damage. And Galta's going over the top anyways, and Deckhand's going under. So you're looking at 17 power, of which 5 is unblockable, and the 12's gonna get some through. So Deckhand is absolutely unbelievable in these like aggressive tempo decks. Crawl Harpooner is, I almost want more. I almost want to flip it and go 2 Branch Walker and 4 Harpooner, because Harpooner into Galta, like later when your dudes are dead and they're sitting in the yard, is basically a pure ramp spell, and it's freaking glorious. Branch Walker just smooths out the draws, just really makes the deck kind of flow, as does Jade Light. But that's only why I have 2 Jade Light. I don't love the 3. Jade Light trades down with Branch Walker and Harpooner and a lot of the white weenie guys. I just don't love Jade Light. This could be another card, in fact, even Exclusion Mage, but like I said, this just helps smooth the deck out. It works okay. Steel Leaf Champion is a mainstay, always 4. This card never gets cut. It is one of your best, if not your best card in the deck. This also plays in with Departed Deckhand, where you can often just attack through so easily because the 2-drop or 2-power creatures cannot block him. So it's additional unblockable damage at times, and that's fantastic. Knoll Hide is also extremely undercosted. The hexproof is extremely relevant. This card gives you much better game versus Esper control, Dimir midrange or control. It's just good in general. Not great against the decks that can chump it a lot, but that's also where Departed Deckhand comes in. Knoll Hide's awesome. There's not much replacement in the format right now at 4-drop if you're just going basically mono green. I know this is the card. Frilled Mystic is the card. Likely my favorite card of the entire set. I realized its power level pretty early on, and I was able to hit Mythic within a few days of every single season, and it's because of the variations of this deck and mostly this card specifically. Frilled Mystic is a powerhouse card. You're not just countering a spell, you're putting extra power on the board when you already have some, and generally more than your opponent. That is big time key. This card rarely gets cut. Decks that go quicker than you, like White Weenie, and you don't even want to cut it against mono red. Mostly White Weenie, you cut this card, but that's about it. It's such a very, very powerful card. This Galt Ax really got popularized recently in Gruul list, where it's 4 of him with 4 Knoll Hide and then Collision Colossus and such. I think I played with like 1 to 3 from time to time. I played with Hydroid Crasis in this slot. This card specifically is just awesome. Like, this deck gets it out very fast. All you need is like a Knoll Hide and a Harpooner or a Branch Walker in play, and you got enough for this guy. I mean, he comes out turn 4, 5, 6. I mean, sometimes the games go to that. Galt Ax is an awesome finisher, probably the best one we can find. War of the Spark, which we'll get into, maybe has some potential to replace this slot, or Knoll Hide slot. We'll see. So the mana base is fairly self-explanatory. However, we're mostly a mono green deck, hence all the forests. We have all our dual lands. By the way, Wizards, you have every single dual land in a card style except Hinterland Harbor. You even have the gates. Why can't I get a card style of Hinterland Harbor? It's absurd, man. It drives my OCD crazy. Thank you for putting up with that few seconds. All right, Simic Guildgate. Now, I've played with a 2 Simic Guildgate and 4 Unclaimed Territory. However, you'll see a sideboard card that's extremely important to the deck, I feel like. And I'm actually okay with the gates. Like, they don't hurt you as bad as you'd think in this deck, and I don't know why that is. We are playing 24 land, so we often have a lot of land. We're not just starving for land, so if we top deck a land, it comes into play tap or turn behind. That doesn't happen too often. So I'm still playing. It could be a 3-3 split. You'll see. You could change the sideboard cards. I've heard a lot of people not like Sleep, which you'll see coming up, but it is what it is. Unclaimed Territory generally is naming Elf. It works for Steel Leaf. It works for our 1-drops. This deck's early iterations had almost pure elves. It had Growth Chamber Guardians. What other elves? It had a few other elves. So this originally started as 4 and was always elf. Now it can be elf. It can be spirit at times for the departed deckhand. So that is the deck in a nutshell. Its goal is to just bash, get through damage. You're generally always racing. You play defense against mono red, and that's about it. Otherwise, you are the aggressor, the tempo builder. So moving on to the sideboard, we have Spell Pierce and Negate. I'll go over, you know what, I will post in the end of the video how I sideboard, but I'm just going to explain some of these real quick. Spell Pierce, God, I love that card style. Great against Wilderness Reclamation decks. Control, same with Negate. Harpooner against mono blue, we bring in more. Naturalize is against the Wilderness Reclamation decks. It's about only when I bring it in. Titanic Brawl helps deal with one of the best cards against us is Hostage Taker. It really helps with that. And it's just nice having a removal spell. We have Fatties. It's just kind of our cast down, right? Exclusion Mage I might want more of. This card is very, very good against mono blue, white, green based decks, especially Sultai and Wild Growth Walkers, which can be one of our worst matchups. This card's awesome. Now, Tempest Caller, which, let me move this back because I was just testing with that. Sleep is the card we really want. It keeps them tapped. It allows us 2 swings. It's almost always game. This is one of the reasons I like the tempo deck. It works. Like the Sleep you don't want main deck because it can be dead, but it's an awesome card. I think it's necessary. I really do. It really helps our white weenie matchup. Vivian Reed is almost purely against control. I will bring it in against Wilderness Reclamation, I believe. I'd have to look at my own sideboard guide for that. So that is the deck in a nutshell, and I'm going to go ahead and play a game or two and just kind of explain things as we go along. This is a game 3 against a Wilderness Reclamation deck. Our initial opening hand here is pretty bad and pretty slow, so we ship it. And it just needs to race, that's the thing. This hand is great. We have a 2-drop. It's not great, we don't have our 1-drop, but it's pretty self-explanatory start to begin with. So we just generally go Branch Walker because we want to hit our 4th land. Sure enough, we have it. Pretty self-explanatory plays up to here. We go Deckhand because that's all we can play. Now next turn gets a little bit more interesting because we have a choice of Frilled Mystic versus Knoll Hide Ferox, and we go Knoll Hide because we just don't have enough board presence. We want to get ahead of them, and that wouldn't be ahead, especially with his Murmuring Mystic who's going to build board presence. So we continue to draw land. Not great. Vivian's not great here, admittedly. It's really tough with Knoll Hide at times. Granted, we can bash here. I did not make him unblockable so that we could counter a Reclamation or something significant coming up. He's just gonna try to get chump blockers. He could have an answer for Deckhand. He has Blink of an Eye to bounce him. He plays Hydroid Crisis. We counter that because now it's a 4/2 creatures versus a 3/3 creatures. And now we remove that, and we can get in a lot of damage here. We're still very scared of Wilderness Reclamation or Nexus of Fate. It really depends here how this could go down. This could go either way at this point. Feels favored, but you never know against Nexus of Fate decks. So he's tanking a little bit. We have a dead hand, essentially. Not great. And he continues to tank. He's really trying to find Reclamation. Nexus of Fate just buys him another draw. He must have almost been there. He's just going to try to build the board and then Nexus of Fate and just bash in the air and kill us over and over again. But he needs Search for his Kanta, Wilderness Reclamation. Hydroid Crisis helps, but granted he doesn't untap here. A Fog here is what he has. Not good for us because it gives him another turn with that kind of board presence. Very scary. This game could have been a loss. Pretty easy. And I just wanted to say really quick, I wanted to show you a list like this because, or rather I wanted to show you, not a list, but a game win. I did lose 2 matches in full disclosure before this, just trying to record a video for this. I just wanted to show one that played out. The other ones didn't play out like it consistently does. Granted, my rank's not even that good right now. I haven't played in a lot in the last few days, so it is what it is. Anyways, he is building up his board, and we are in a very tight position right now. But we still do have Departed Deckhand, which can win us this game. However, we only have 7 mana. A land here wins us the game because we can do double Departed Deckhand if he does not have an answer. Still a very scary game. It could have gone either way, but you see, basically against any deck, you build your board, you maintain tempo, you counter them, and you just make your fatties unblockable. Even your 3/2s are very relevant, as they were in this game, and this is exactly why Deckhand is over Growth Chamber. This matchup shows that reasoning perfectly. There's just too many decks where you get stalemated by other creatures, and this is the answer through them all. This and Sleep. Frilled Mystic helps as well to keep you ahead on board position, but it's not good against things like White Weenie. So it is what it is, and we ended up winning victory. Pretty picture time! So there you have just a little bit of how the deck plays out. I'm sorry the video's fast. I'll try to figure out the format. Hopefully you got some insight into how it goes. But basically, you want Pelt Collector, Llanowar Elves, and in certain matchups you want certain cards, just like any other match, right? Against White Weenie and Sultai, you want to see deckhands, you want to see sleeps. And I'm going to post here right after this in just a second, you'll see the, you could take a screenshot of it. It's going to be a sideboard guide, a quick one. And essentially that's it. I don't have much more to say about the list. Some people are having really good success with it. Others don't. You know, it's just the way it is. Play styles, luck factor. There really is a specific way to play decks, and like you really need to think about your lines. People think like aggro's just, you know, slam the card you can, and sometimes certain turns are that way. A lot of times they're not. So really think out your plays, really understand the meta, really understand what you're playing against, and I honestly believe this list will get you to Mythic or whatever your goal is. This list has the capability to get you there. I really appreciate you checking out this video. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I know it's been a long one, so thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.